Hi, I'm Jim,
And I'm Audrey,
and we both love wine,
but we have some different views.
which is why this series is called His
And hers.
Wine. All right, so today we want to talk and probably start the discussion about Virginia wine.
Yes, we love Virginia wine. We're big advocates of that, and we got to go to a dinner, so I'm kind of revved up with that.
Yeah, well, when people outside of Virginia talk about Virginia wine, if they talk about Virginia wine, if it comes up at all, right, there's some negative comments and complaints.
There are. It's frustrating.
And, well, one of the complaints is that it's overpriced.
I do hear that a lot. And I kind of was sympathetic to that at first. I'm not anymore. I really do think that there's a reason, the Virginia wine, it's a business itself, and there's a reason why they price bottles where they price them.
There is, and it is business, and it is supply and demand. But I also want to point out that Virginia wines are not priced really differently than wines of similar quality from other states.
That's true.
I think there's some snobbery within different regions of the United States where if you're, say, from California or Oregon or upstate New York or someplace where it's also a known wine producing area. There's, in fact, wine producing areas all over the country. But if you're from one of these places that has achieved a lot of acclaim, sometimes there's a snobbery of, we can command this price for our bottles, but you can't.
There's a few egos at play there, and I kind of feel that that's a criticism coming at Virginia wines, that they feel like we've got big egos that we're putting out there in the pricing, and I don't think so. I think we actually are having really good quality wine, and if people have been in the past, we're younger than California. We have not been producing on the scale that California has as many years as they have.
We haven't, although I think it's important to remember, we always think of Virginia as a new or an up-and-coming or growing wine region, but in fact, the modern wine history of Virginia really is, we're 30 years into it now, into the modern production, and the quality of most of the wine here is really, really good, but very few people outside of Virginia are getting that.
It's true. And the quality is very, very good. In those 30 years, they've learned how to grow in Virginia. Virginia was a challenge. We don't have California climate, and I'm sorry to be comparing ourselves to California all the time, but the climate here is difficult, and I think it took some struggles for them to get to the part where they're really working it now, and they're really honing their skills.
The mastery of the climates and the soils and everything else. That's part of it.
Okay.
But I think also that if you are in another state, let's say you're in Montana or you're in Arizona or someplace, and you go to the shop, if there happens to be a Virginia wine, right, and there probably isn't, but if you happen to get your hands on a bottle of Virginia wine, you're not getting the premium top quality wine that you would be getting if you went to one of our wineries here.
Perhaps. But I think the most significant thing that I've heard is the production level, the volume, that we're just not produced on that volume. And here, especially, I can just talk right to Loudoun. Here in Loudoun, the wineries, we have 50 plus wineries here. So they're not producing a volume because each of them is smaller.
True.
They're more boutique is a word that some of the winemakers have actually used to describe themselves as boutique wineries and boutique wines. They're not producing mass volume, and mass volume, mass production, You're able to do cheaper prices.
Absolutely, and I think it's important to know that, to understand that the property here, particularly in northern Virginia, regions, but even in the Monticello regions and other regions, property here in Virginia costs a lot, and it's hard to acquire lots and lots of acreage. That the wineries that go out, even those that maybe it's some tech executive or somebody who's a government contractor executive goes out and decides they're going to start an ego project because they want their face and name on a bottle of wine. Even with all of the buying power they have, the wineries are small. And I know that people listening thinking, oh, well, are you telling me that you can go get, 50 acres in Sonoma Valley for really cheap? No, not now.
Not now.
But
No.
back in the 60s and 70s, you sure could. And those wineries that have been there, the Gallows and the others that have been there for that long, sure, those property values are soaring recently. But Virginia's always kind of been there. So the ability to produce massive quantities of wine just has never been there in Virginia.
No, it hasn't. And you're right, though, talking to that we're, the last 30 years is where that building has happened. But there, with all the tourist things, because we have venues, and I think the wineries really need to have that. That is how they're selling their wine, is having these venues that tourists come to for weddings, for events, just on their weekends. They're doing over 500,000 of people coming to these wineries during a season. And that's just Loudoun. That's just Loudoun. That's not Virginia.
That's the main driver of their sales, is people who are coming to the vineyards, coming out from our local big cities and spending the weekend out in the country, going to the tasting rooms, going to listening to music and the events, and buying the wine there. And they're selling a lot of their wine that way. And in fact, every one of these vineyards has, special memberships and club memberships where you're getting their truly top premium product that they're not selling to other people. Maybe they're shipping someplace, but
they're providing a fantastic venue for these events. A lot of times they have music and things that are happening there. They're doing a lot. All of those things, I think, are taken into consideration with the price of the product. And the volume that we're doing is, for the majority, being consumed right here.
Right. And so, which is why I say, if you go to a wine shop in Phoenix and you happen to get a bottle of Virginia wine, you're not getting that product. You're getting whatever it is that is mass produced enough that can be shipped all over the country.
True.
We're not getting those boutique wines. We're not getting the ones that the members are getting in the club room that nobody else can get into.
Exactly. So the dinner that we got to go to, so we're here in Loudoun. So this was a Loudoun Awards. And this is from the Loudoun Wineries and Wine Growers Association. So this was their awards, 2022, just for Loudoun County. They had tastings of all these different gold medal and silver medal winners. We got to taste a lot of fantastic wine. It was really, really nice. Then they have a dinner, and they actually went through an awards by category when they did that. And the winemakers and vineyards that were winning did not know ahead of time if they were going to win. So it was definitely like an Academy Awards kind of night.
It was. It was a fun night. We had a great time there. It's nice to recognize the innovation and the hard work. There's a lot of diversity out here too.
Yeah.
The perception is that it's, rich white guys come out and start a winery just because they want to see their name on the label. But the number of women, minorities, the number of young people, the number of retirees, it just runs the gamut. It's really just a broad spectrum of people who love wine, want to be involved in wine.
And I love that word innovation, because I think that is, to drive it home, that it is not an easy place out here in Virginia. And having gotten to the part that they are now innovative and pushing and just raising that bar all the time is fantastic.
Well, no, that's an excellent point, because it has taken some time for the local wine growers and vineyards to master the Virginia climates, the Virginia soils, and be able to produce the quality of wines that they're producing in this place. It's not naturally a great wine region left to its own devices, but the hard work, the innovation, the science that's going into it is spectacular. But there's also true that Virginia wine has a connection with Europe.
Yes. Well, and the same kind of problems that we have are experienced in France has that. Italy has some problems with climate. They're used to overcoming some of these things. We get a lot of professionals from France and from Italy that come over and act as advisors here for the wineries or winemakers.
Sure. In fact, many of the vineyards here, when they started out, went and sought out European vineyard managers, winemakers, wine production managers.
And vineyard managers, we have to remember that, because I'm talking about winemakers a lot. The vineyard managers are so key, especially since we're talking about this climate. you cannot put enough praise on them, really, because they're sometimes forgotten. They're hugely important.
And so they've helped and in fact, sometimes you hear about vineyards here sending their own people over to Europe to be trained. And that has helped us here in Virginia ramp up the quality very quickly, much quicker than we would have done by trial and error. But it's also led to Virginia wines getting more respect in Europe than they get in the rest of the United States.
And I have heard that I don't know exactly where in Europe, but I was hearing this from winemakers as well, that they are actually having product is over in the European countries, not so much in other parts of the U.S., but in the European countries.
Sure, you can't sell a Virginia wine in Maryland, but you can sell it in, in Austria or someplace. And where they have access, you would think, well, they've got fantastic wines there. Why don't they just drink their own wines?
Right.
Because Virginia wines are good. They want it. And the product, if you want it, you'll get it. And the product is selling there. And it's getting the respect there. I wish it would get more respect in the rest of the country. But I think in order for it to do that, people from the rest of the country have to come here and get the wine here.
And the main thing I want to just say as many times as I can is if you have not tried Virginia wine recently, revisit. Go back and try it again. If it's been a few years, if it's been a month, hey. But seriously, give Virginia wine a chance. It has been improving all the time, and I think it deserves all the praise and the price on the bottle.
And there are some real rock stars in the wine world that are emerging here in Virginia. And so as we do these series, we won't do all of them on it, but as we do these series, we're going to be coming back to Virginia wines and featuring some things that you probably haven't heard of, and directing you to some wines that are just fantastic, wonderful wine that you probably would not be exposed to otherwise.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to tell you on the category award winners, because there's all kinds of gold and silver medal, but the category award winners, I want to point these out to you, and I think you can probably post it up on the cast as well. But in the category, they had one for Best Hybrid White, went to the 2020 Mandolin White from Duquesne Winery. The Best Albarino, fantastic, 2021 Albarino from Bluemont Vineyards. They had a Best Sauvignon Blanc, that was the 2021 from 868 Vineyards. The Best Petite Mansing, the 2020 from Williams Gap Vineyard. Chardonnay, 2020 Chardonnay from Kenya Vineyards. So then they had a Best Viognier, great here in Virginia. That was from 868 Vineyards. The Best Rosé was a Rosé of Cab Franc from Sunset Hills Vineyard. The Best Hybrid Red, we get to move on to the reds. Three Captains Red from Zephaniah Farm Vineyard. Then they had the Best Red Vinifera was a Cabernet Sauvignon from 2020, and this was from October 1 Vineyard. Best Cab Franc 2021 from Williams Gap Vineyard. The Best Merlot was a 2019 Russ Mountain Merlot from Wash Family Wine.
That one.
It was good.
Yeah.
Best Petit Verdot, we like some PV. This was 2020 from Carriage House Wineworks. And the Best Bordeaux Blend was the 2019 Furnace Mountain Red from 8 Chains North. And they went on to some grand awards, but the Chairman's Grand Award, meaning out of those categories, went to the 2021 Bluemont Vineyard Albarino.
Now, and this is a good point to make, because as you read through the list, you're hearing grapes that aren't necessarily traditionally associated with Virginia, like Albarino, Petit Manseng.
People don't think of those as being Virginia, but they're doing them here, and they're doing them wonderfully. We were tasting things. We love reds, so we talk about that a lot and go in and order that. Great. Mm-hmm. We love some of those white options we were getting and not expecting, and they are doing a great job here.
And somebody once said that wine only grows in beautiful places. There are a few places more beautiful than some of the wineries you've mentioned. If you ever had the chance to sit out at the tasting room or on the deck at Bluemont and have some of their award-winning wine, and that view over the valley is just spectacular.
Which would be a great time of year this fall with the foliage out. Just saying, it is great.
All right, that brings us to, what are we drinking tonight?
We are drinking some wine from Loudoun County.
No, we're drinking some award-winning wine
Yes,
from
we're
Loudoun County.
drinking award-winning Loudoun County wine.
So what have you got?
Okay, so I have got the fantastic, this is from October 1 Vineyard, and this is their Cabernet Sauvignon. It is delicious, everything that I want from it. Good tannic structure, and I'm getting a lot of good fruit there. So I get the full spectrum, it's balanced. I've got that acidity, but the tannins are what I'm coming back for in that berry fruit flavor.
All right. Well, I am drinking a white. Believe it or not, I'm drinking the award-winning Petit Manseng from the Wine Reserve at Waterford, and it's a lovely white wine. It's crisp and acidic, like a white wine should be, but it's also lighter. It's a little bit floral without being flowery, and it's got notes of both honey and honeysuckle, making it an absolutely lovely wine. So enjoying the heck out of it.
Awesome, awesome. All right, cheers.
Cheers. Yeah.
I do like that.
I do.
100% Cabernet Sauvignon. All right. It doesn't matter what you're drinking. The point is just enjoy.